Okay, Shayma, I just sent the invite to you. I haven't been on here in so long. It's so weird. All right, so while we wait for Shayma to get in here, I pinned the comment. This is a pop-up episode of Make With Me. Let me see.
Did it work?
Yeah, there you are.
Oh my god. I'm like pressing it and it's like loading and I'm like pressing it and it's loading and I'm like, what is going on?
Instagram is so silly sometimes.
Literally.
It's a while.
How are you though? Can you hear me? Because I know my mask. I don't know if you...
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good. I was just wondering because like my mask, I know like sometimes when you talk your mask like muffles it.
Every time I talk, I feel like my jaw is like locked when I have a mask on. So I know
Literally.
exactly what you mean. I never feel like I can like really move my mouth the way like you normally do. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's affected.
Or like you ever wear your mask and you realize that your face is like going like this
Yeah.
and like your cheeks just hurt afterwards and you're like, why was I like performing under my mask? It's weird.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But I'm good. How are you? I'm just hanging out.
Yeah. I'm good too. I'm enjoying the nice New York fresh air, you know? It's a nice lazy Sunday today, I feel like.
It is. I definitely woke up really late, like way later than I thought I was going to, and just kind of like chilled out until right
Yeah.
now.
I feel like we've actually been having fall lately, or at least here in the East Coast, like it feels like fall, where like normally it would just go straight into winter, and now it feels like we're having like a fall weather.
Yes. This is for sure autumn to me. I don't feel any remnants of summer anymore. It's gone. Completely gone.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I'm gonna introduce the people to you, and feel free to jump in at any point in time if I'm missing something or you want to add anything. I saw your post earlier too, which I didn't know was going on, but I'm glad you posted that. If you feel free to talk about that later too, that's great. Um, my friend Shayma, we actually used to work together at Lush, and that was a very long time ago, but somehow we all kept in touch with each other in the form of social media. Um, and I don't think I knew you created art when we were working. I don't know if you were doing it then, but
I'm actually still at Lunch, but what you would call it, I wasn't really like into like illustrations and graphic design, but I was always doing video work, and I
mm,
feel like most recently in like the past like 2 or 3 years, like I got into like art, and I was like, oh, this is like another way I can like express myself through art, but video will always be like my first love.
so like doing videography or like editing or a little bit of everything. What were you doing?
Yeah, basically. I'm a TV and broadcasting major, so like TV is like what I want to do in the future. But yeah, like film, like recording, directing, editing is like what I really love to do. I dabble in all forms.
And all the things. That's what's up. Okay, cool. So you said you still work at Lush?
Yeah.
Wow. How has this all changed that, or has it at all?
Yeah, I feel like it's like much more chiller. Like people are nicer in a pandemic. It's weird. Like especially in New York City, like I feel like people are much more understanding. Like everyone just kind of knows like what's up. I feel like we're lucky enough to like live in like blue states where like if it was a red state, like it would have been harder. But for the most part, like people are chill.
Definitely. That's definitely a good reason, I would say.
Hmm.
I don't think I've thought about it too much, but that's pretty much. I would think that's why people are nicer and like more understanding, but maybe there's more things we're just not
Right.
thinking about. Um, I'm trying to read your mask while you're talking to me, but it's flipped backwards because we're
Oh,
on.
it says momentum together, and then these are like different languages on the top of the bottom. But it's basically like
Oh,
another. It was like for a campaign for Black Lives Matter. But this was like their slogan.
oh, okay, got you. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, are you able to draw while we're doing this or make things?
Oh, I didn't bring anything. I didn't know I was supposed to, but it's fine. I can talk. I can talk for days, so it's cool.
All right, I'm gonna try to draw while we're doing it, and I'll flip the camera around a few times so we can see each other while we're doing it
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Um, maybe just turn my camera around.
What piece are you working on?
I honestly I haven't been creating much like real what I call real work or like pieces I would sell
Mm,
currently because I'm in school and school takes a lot of time away from like the actual like focus I can put onto my work. So here's a quick sketch on some copy paper.
that's
um,
so
and
pretty.
I'm gonna just color it in. I'm gonna try to do a monochrome. I haven't done a monochrome piece in a while, so I'm gonna try to do like all the shades of red,
Mm,
and do these like details.
right. I think that's so pretty. I love when like things are like so detailed. Like something is like someone touching their neck. Like I think that's so like poetic. Like that's such a like hipster thing to say, but I think there's something so beautiful about like simple things.
I feel the same way. I feel like I've have you ever done like the class where you have to like draw a model like they come in.
No, I've never because I do more like video classes, so I haven't done like a painting class yet.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I've done them a few times, and for some reason, like they usually tell you, they instruct you to like draw the whole thing, like draw everything you see. You're trying to get
Hmm.
the grand shapes of the person's body, so like the head, where how the arm movement is placed, and so on and so on. But for some reason, I always get stuck in the gestures. It's like I like how their neck bends, or I like how the ears like being draped by their hair. Like something about that was always interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like natural. Like it doesn't feel forced. Like it feels like emotion through like just like you just being you, you know?
Hmm. But I feel like even though I focus on those things, sometimes it's hard for me to capture. So while I drew this sketch and it took me like 10 seconds or whatever, it still was like it still doesn't seem complete because I need to like add those elements of shading and things so it makes more sense about like why is she holding her neck? I don't know. But like maybe somebody would
Right.
resonate with it if you feel like you can see the vein in her fingers or something.
Yeah, definitely. I get it. I really like it.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
wanted to
thanks.
ask you about your work because you said you weren't always doing the like more tangible digital art, but it is still in line with the videography that you do. So how did you make that transition?
Um, so
What made you do that?
basically, I started bullet journaling because like I'm like a big planner. Like I love using planners and stuff like that. So I was like,
Mhm.
oh, like I'm gonna start bullet journaling because that's really cool. So then I started doodling, and then that's how I kind of got into it. And I was like, oh wait, I'm kind of good at this. And then yeah, and then when you doodles kind of turned into like let me try myself, and then that like went on and on and on. But basically, that's how I kind of started, which is funny because I don't bullet journal anymore. Like I buy planners.
Now you're like, I'm totally over that.
It's too much work. Like that's I don't know. It kind of defeats the purpose of like you need a plan time to bullet journal, but you
Yeah.
can't put that.
Okay.
But you can't put that in your thing till you make it, and it's like you don't got time. It's so weird. I was like, nah, this is. It's like for people who have like two things to do, and then they're like, I'm a bullet journal too. Like, but I was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
too busy to
I
sit there and draw every single detail of my planet. Nah, nah.
I got obsessed with watching bullet journaling videos for a little
Mm.
while, but I knew it wasn't for me. I knew I was like I didn't have the time nor the patience to like figure that out.
Yeah, and you have to plan this stuff out too. They want you to like, I mean, they don't want you, but I mean, but you want to like make it all pretty and stuff. And you know, the YouTubers are always like, it doesn't matter if it's ugly or whatever. And it's like, but theirs looks amazing, and you're just like, I
But
want
mine
mine to
doesn't look
look
like that.
good. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, it was messing up my head. It was like so stressful, and I was like, this defeats planning is supposed to be less stress, not more
Right,
stress. So I was like,
right.
I was like, I need to cut it. I can't do this anymore. But I mean, that's
If you
basically how I started.
would you ever like create a stationery line? Because it sounds like it's still something you enjoy, but it's just not to do it every month for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if I could make, you know, at one point I was like, yeah, I should make them digitally and print it out. But then I'm like, that's work too. But if I'm at a point where I get to like make my own planners and like share them, like that'll be awesome.
Yeah, because I love, I don't know if this is like bad, but I love collecting the different types of planners and stationery journals and things like that. 'Cause I use them, but it's not as much as I probably should, considering how many I have. Um, but I like them. I think they're, and I literally go through the store and I'll go through every single book that they have to see which one makes sense for me. And like, do I like the style of it? How would I use
Yeah.
it? Am I using it for school or work or my art or, you know?
Dude, that's crazy because I do the same. Like when I plan for when I shop for a planner, like I'm at Target for like 3 hours just like looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like this paper, but I feel like if I put a marker, it'll bleed through. And I'm like, this design is okay, but I don't like the way it's set up. Like I'm so particular, it's so bad. But I collect empty journals. Like I have a whole bookshelf of just journals that I don't write in. I just like the way they look, or like the type of paper, or like the size, or like I just collect like weird different journals.
Yeah, see, I'm not the only one. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, no, it's like very satisfying when you find someone else that like enjoys stationery as much as you, because you're like, okay, I'm not weird. Like those are the kids that enjoyed school shopping.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
I don't know. I've always liked them, even if I didn't use them. I just wanted to have the idea, the option to plan my stuff and have it tangibly. Like even now, I don't use the digital version of it, like in your calendars.
Oh yeah, I hate that. I people who like actually plan through Google Calendar, I'm like, yo, you're weird. Like I I like to check things off like physically, you know.
Yeah, and I think there's some kind of way you can do it in the app, but I don't know. It doesn't feel the same,
Yeah, I
especially now
can't
that we're
turn
on
a
the computer
page.
all day long.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're in school and stuff, I feel like it's nice to have something like physical. It makes you feel like things are real, especially when most of your work is online.
That is exactly the word.
Yeah.
Makes you feel like things are real because I can't even tell you how often throughout this semester specifically I would just be like, what day is it? Like, is this the weekend and I have a full day of classes the next day? I don't even.
Literally. And then like say you have like classes on Monday and then it's like Thursday and you're like, "Oh my God, like my class is coming up. I feel like I just had class like and everything merges into one day." It's like I
Hmm.
hate online classes. They're like the worst.
This is probably, and I think I say this every semester, but I think this is the hardest semester. I think it's been the hardest semester for me, mostly because of the having to pivot the way we did so hard and so quickly.
Mhm. It's funny because like most of the work I do is online, like as a digital artist. But like when it comes to school, I'm like, no, no, no. I need it. Like I need something tangible.
It's just not the same.
Yeah. But you know, I'm glad that we're able to do it in a safe way. At the same time, I'm like grateful that you know we have like all these like really cool technologies to like so we don't have to like stop our learning or anything. But at the same
Hmm.
time, it's like it sucks, but it's the safest way that we can do it.
Yeah, imagine if we were trying to do this whole thing without like Zoom.
Yeah, or even worse, like having in-person classes, like that'll be so scary.
It would be the like people would be it would be worse. It would be way worse because people would be frantic, but also people probably would have to drop out of school just to
Yeah,
avoid, getting sick. And I would be one of those people for sure because I would just wouldn't I couldn't comply to that.
yeah, no. And then I feel like a lot of people will. kind of do their own thing. And with art classes, it's a little bit weirder because it's like there's no structure in most art classes. It's like you sit wherever you want. And then when you start bringing structure into that kind of environment, it gets like
Hmm.
weird, or like people start to like, I don't know, it like throws the vibes off. Like,
Yeah, so I'm studying architecture, and while a lot of it is digital, like you were saying with your major, um, it's just we do stuff that is tangible. Like a lot of it is starting off with sketching or like making your models, and like you have partners sometimes. So a lot of it is physical as well. And so not having that aspect has definitely changed the feel of the semester. We've somehow figured it out where it's not completely absurd, but is that you can definitely feel the difference.
right. That makes sense. Um, but yeah, this whole thing, it's pretty crazy. But hopefully next semester, maybe like the world gets to a better place where we could like be in person classes.
Do you think we will be? Like, are you
Um,
optimistic for that?
I'm hoping it will be. You know, I feel like the way politics are set up right now, it doesn't have our best intentions in mind. It's like a celebrity game at this point. So
Hmm.
it's like we really don't know what's gonna happen. But I feel like there's no point in dwelling in like the negativity, like, and that also like comes from a place of privilege to be able to say that. But like hoping for the best is will never go out of style. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be. I think that helps me get through it too. Like being optimistic and the fact that like it can't last like this forever. One day we will go back to normal, and maybe it won't be next year or the year after that, but it will happen. And
Yeah.
I think just having that mindset or that as a goal, even if just for myself, helps me feel like, okay, well, this is not the end of it.
Yeah.
I can do this for a little while longer. It's fine.
Yeah, and at one point, like when quarantine started, I was like, oh, like I have time to like sit and like do art, and it was great for a while. And then I realized, like, I feel like when you make art, when you make a piece, like you're talking to yourself a lot, and then you just end up going crazy at some point because you're just
What's
like,
what's the most intense piece that you've done so far, you think? Because I feel the same way.
um,
Like you're talking to yourself while you're doing it, and it becomes a conversation between you and the work.
right. The most when you like, I guess I see intense as like two different things. Like intense, like emotionally, where you're like, this takes a
Hmm.
lot for me to like put this down on like something. And then intense, where it's like something that has a lot of detail or like has a lot of work put into it, or like takes a
Okay.
longer time to make. Um, so for the second one, I just dropped a piece of like people in a subway. That was probably like my most intricate and like intense piece. It took me a while to finish it just because it's way more detailed than what I usually do. Like there's actually like an environment. People are in somewhere instead of just like a plain background. Um,
I love that piece.
oh yeah, oh yeah, you saw it, yeah. But yeah, that piece was also like intense too because like it was weird. This like art contest like hit me up and was like, hey, like you should join. And I was like, okay. And then I made it, and then I joined, and then they're like, but you lost. And I was like, oh. So I was like, oh, I was like really sad, but I was like, this is still something that I want to put out into the world because it's something that I'm proud of, and like,
Mhm.
um, but also like something did come out of that too. Like it made me like, I don't feel like I need validation from other people to like feel proud of my work, and like I should still post this. This is still something that I did. So yeah, but I feel like that's intense too. Like the process of like feelings afterwards. I feel like as artists, it's like weird because like we're kind of expected to like heal out loud or like show our
Mm.
processes of healing where it's like it's weird. It's like either we're like super sad and we have to make that into something and like that's considered part of our healing process, but sometimes it's not, and it's like I don't know, does that make sense? Or am I just
Yeah,
talking?
no, I totally agree with that. I was waiting to see where you were taking it, but I agree. I feel like, and part of the reason I've created this show, Make With Me, was because of one, the police brutality. We were entering this pandemic and nobody knew what that meant or when it was ending. I was just coming back from a study abroad program that was supposed to go
Mm,
on for once and then I had to end it quickly because of everything that was going on. So it was like so many things were changing at once, and I was like, I can't be the only person that's feeling all of these feelings at once. And so I
Mm,
wanted to just, even if I didn't have a guest on the show, I wanted to just have something where people can come and watch and have this like time where they could just not think about any of those things. So, but
right.
in doing that, while I was like you said, healing out loud, I knew that I was being watched, so I wasn't able to do it properly. Does that make
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes I would do a piece, even if it was something like just drawing an apple or something super simple. I would have to go then decompress from doing that drawing right after the live ended because it was that much like anxiety or just like emotion happening at one time.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, it's weird because like I feel like most artists, especially this happens. I feel like with music, they're like your best music comes from your saddest place, and it's like kind of messed up because it's like we can't experience like people want to experience joy and like make something out of that too, but it's like people relate so deeply to like pieces that come
Trauma.
from pain,
Hmm.
and it's like damn, why you gotta be that messed up?
So why you gotta be that messed up? I feel you.
Yeah, like this happened with The Weeknd. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, his music's not the same anymore." He's like, "Yeah, well, because I'm not depressed anymore." And it's like weird. It's like people connect with you when you're at your lowest, and like yeah, you make art that's real, but also like any art you make is you. Like it doesn't have to be from that same place that you were. I feel like most artists feel like they need to be in a state of like depression or in a state of sadness to create something that's real, but
Yep.
um, there's other ways to like connect with your emotions. Like sad and anger is not the only emotion that you feel, you know?
I absolutely agree. I was one of those
Yeah.
people that felt that way about The Weeknd, but then I just realized I just outgrew his music.
Mm.
It wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be sad, because even when I was listening to the sad versions of his stuff, I was like, this is a lot. Like this is feeling a lot to me, and I don't know if I can listen to this all the time. But
Right.
I still was a fan. I just knew that at some point it was going to have to end because I wasn't in that state of mind anymore, as far as like what I wanted from music.
Yeah, yeah. But I was just like that's something that also like opens my mind too. Like also like when people say like you should create whenever you feel something, I pause.
Yeah, I got you though. I can
Oh.
hear you now.
But I feel like when people be like, you should create whenever you're feeling a lot of things, I think that's dumb too, because you should create whenever the freak you want to create. Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
um, I also feel like that's like unhealthy, like where you're like, I'm happy, I need to create something, or like I'm super sad, I need to create something. You need to be consistent with your stuff, because then I feel like you get more quality stuff that way whenever you feel inspired. But I don't know, people who connect like their art with like whenever they're feeling something really deep, and only do it if that makes sense, like only do it when they're feeling that way. I feel like that's like, for me at least, it's unhealthy,
I wonder how we could break out of that, like
right?
as a unit. Because I feel the same way. Sometimes I want to create something like really fun and lighthearted, and then sometimes I want to create something because I don't know, I'm going through something, or maybe I just like watched a movie that was really intense, or it could be anything. But I feel like similar to what you were saying earlier, like it's not reciprocated the same way when people are experiencing your work. Like they're
Hmm.
used to a certain thing because you've always created that kind of how you said with The Weeknd. And then when you go to transition to this, like I look at that, I made this fun, cool, fluffy thing, and then they're like, I don't really, I don't want to see that. That doesn't make me feel the same way your other piece did.
Yeah, it's or like when people are like, I need to be under the influence to create something. I'm like, well, I feel like, I don't know, the way I see like creating is an extension of my living. It's like something that I do every day, just like I don't want to rely on it as a coping mechanism. I still want to like heal
Mhm.
things like the normal way, the way a therapist would want you to, but also like this is also something that I do. It's not a symptom of life, but just like a part of my life.
Do you feel like that's why people fall out of love with their their creativity.
Yeah, I feel like when you connect it, because like say like if you're making stuff when you're under the influence or when you're sad all the time, and then like you're at a good place in life and you don't feel those things anymore, like um, then you probably don't feel as motivated to create anymore.
Hmm.
And it's like I don't know, like creating shouldn't be connected to any specific thing. Like something happens, you're like, ah, I need to make art, you know?
Yeah, I think I understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which is funny because like all the pieces on my pages are like a bit on the sadder side, but at the same time, like 70% of the stuff that I make, like the internet doesn't see, like it just stays in my laptop.
Oh, why is that? Is there a reason behind that?
Well, I feel like I said with the healing out loud, like some pieces are just aren't meant to see. Like I feel like that's like a personal thing, and I don't want anyone to like see it. And I feel
Hmm.
like that itself is a lost art. Like people feel like anything I need to
You have to
create,
show
like
everything.
people, yeah, like I need to drop everything all the time. But you should drop the stuff that you feel most proud of. And also just like a lot of this stuff is just for practice.
Yeah. Like even this is like I'm just playing around, but somebody might. I think the reason I share this is because somebody might learn something from it. They're like, "Oh, I can play with markers. That seems like it's pretty easy or something I'm into."
Yeah,
But
like this is like a
I
learning
agree.
thing. But I don't know.
I
I feel like
definitely agree.
not everything needs to be posted.
Yes.
Like
Not everything needs to be content. Oh my God, scream that over the mountains.
yes, I feel like in the age of social media, I still believe in privacy.
Ooh, can we just get that like on a t-shirt or something? It's not a thing. People don't understand. I haven't shown, I don't even talk about half of the stuff that I do, let alone make, I
Yeah,
think.
exactly. And also,
I've
and this,
shown some of the stuff that I'm not necessarily like in love with or the most proud of, just to tell people, because I do have people that are younger that come to me like, I want to make art, but I'm not good. And that's mostly to show them like you don't have to be the best at whatever, but also
mhm,
your style is what you make it. Like you might think it's not good because you're comparing yourself to somebody else, but maybe that's good to somebody who wants to buy it.
yeah,
And that's if that's what your goal is, then that's all that matters. But
yeah, exactly. Like the death of like your confidence is when you start comparing your stuff.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I was gonna say something and then I totally lost my. Oh, like about privacy, like, and a lot of people. I feel like in social media, like people feel like if you're not constantly sharing on your stories, if you're not like constantly telling people what's going on in your life, like then you're like, what's the point of watching you? Like people need their privacy, like, or like you kind
I,
of seem standoffish, or like maybe you're too cool, or I don't know, some weird stuff.
some weird stuff. Some weird stuff. I agree. I've had
Yeah,
people say they like thought I like retired from art before I started like really sharing because I really always have this art page. I kind of made I think it was like a year or two ago now that I made
mhm.
this page, but I've been doing art my whole life. Like people that know me know I've been doing this, and this is not something that's gonna just go away. But I guess because I wasn't sharing it, people were just like, "Oh, she must have stopped. She's not doing that anymore." It's like
Yeah,
that's
and it's
not the case. I just don't talk about it.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like, as artists, we should be like confident and being like, well, I mean, I don't want to show you my piece. Like, if you're making something, like, you don't have to share it. Like, it could just be something personal for you. Like, your art can work for you as well. I always like to say, like, I hope my art serves people in the same way that making it served me.
Mm.
So,
Can you
it's,
talk to the people? I mean, I shared your work when I made the like promo for today.
mhm.
But can you tell them like what your art is usually inspired by, or do you have, does it matter? Is that like, does that change or?
Um, yeah, but I feel like my art is inspired by like a bunch of different things. It's like for me, it's part of my healing process. Not all the time, but sometimes. Um, I feel like my whole thing is like I've had I'm in my 20s, so I've had so many conversations with people around me who just like in different situations who just feel lost, especially in the way the world is right now with like the Black
Mhm.
Lives Matter protests and like a pandemic. Like people just feel lost, and it's like I kind of express that through my art, where it's like my what being lost feels for me, and
Hmm.
sometimes that interconnects with my faith. I feel like inherently because my illustrations have like me in it and I wear hijab, people just assume like it's faith based, and it's like no, that's just what I look like. but
Oh, okay.
but some of it is faith based. It's like tied to like I'm at an interesting I have an interesting and unique perspective because I'm a Black Muslim Arab woman. So I go
Hmm.
through a lot of things that other people probably don't even think about. And like my
I was
art
gonna say
shows
they
that.
never even crosses their mind.
What is it?
I was gonna say that's probably true. It never even crosses their mind.
Yeah. So it's like, my version of lost or my version of feeling down or like insecure is like totally different from what you're feeling. But I hope that you kind of connect in the same way that kind of my art shows. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes it's really hard for me to explain like what my art is. But honestly, it's selfish at the end of the day. Like I create it for me, and if other people connect with that, that's amazing. But nothing someone could say could invalidate my art. If that makes sense.
But I think that's a good thing because then you'll never feel like you're doing it for someone else, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that's like a really hard thing to do sometimes though, because I fall into that like, oh, this didn't get as many likes as the other one. Like maybe I should do more stuff like that, and then I have to like catch myself, and I'm like, just do what you feel proud of, because at the end of the day, that's what's that's what matters.
That's a whole this whole live so far is all messages. I need to get just like put on stickers, like put a poster over my bed just to remind myself, like, don't worry about what everybody's talking about. That's so good.
Right.
My cousin wasn't here. I think she left already, but she was saying that drag me then, but thank you for a reminder of consistency.
Mm. I'm glad to be able to do
Hi,
that.
Manifa. She
Uh,
was saying, yeah, always do it for you. Hmm.
yeah, because you become way more prouder of your work that way. Because like for example, with that art contest that I lost, I was like, damn, but I still like it. I was like, this is still me. Like, if other people are at the same time, I feel weird when people like judge your stuff because it's like art is so subjective. Just because
Yeah,
those judges didn't like it, and I posted it, and so many people reached out to me because they connected with it, and I was like, wow, this is why you shouldn't doubt yourself or base your own value with other people's opinions because even though they didn't like it, so many other people did like it. So,
but the other thing is, because it's a competition, there could only be one or three or however many winners. So, and I don't know how many people submitted, but it doesn't mean that they didn't like it. It could just mean that you just weren't in the top tier, or maybe they had more votes for the other people versus yours. But they might still maybe they'll come back to you for something else because they're like we liked her work that much. You never
yeah,
know.
yeah, I totally agree. But when you're in it, it's like hard to not feel that way.
Hmm. That's
But
true.
I do agree with your point though. Like that's why I always tell people, I'm like, if you don't know, just do it. Because the worst that can happen is that it doesn't happen for you. And even if it doesn't happen for you, like that's a part of your destiny as well.
Right. It helps you learn about yourself. Like
Yeah,
while
or
you're
like,
doing it, you learn that you enjoyed that kind of work, and that was like you said, the more intense piece that you've done. And now
mhm.
that might be some kind of like that might be the next direction you go with your art. Maybe it's
Yeah,
not, but it could be.
yeah, I totally agree. Or like what you said, like they might think of you for something else, or like it's so weird. You make connections in the place that you least expect it.
Right. Hmm.
So that's how I always think of it. It's just like do stuff, and like if something comes out of it, then it comes out of it. What's your most intense piece that you've done?
My most intense piece, similar to you, I feel like that can be described in different ways. So it could be like how labor intensive it was versus what it actually meant to me and like how I experienced it emotionally.
Mm,
So if you're talking about labor intensive, I've done some pretty large scale and like detailed mosaic pieces, and those just take a long time, and like you have to be careful, obviously, so you don't hurt yourself, but also just to make sure that everything stays into the the frame or whatever, so that when the person gets it, it doesn't fall apart. So there's like a lot of things to consider while you're just making this piece look nice. Um, but then I've also done some paintings that were, for me, they just were intense because they were like had a connotation or relationship to being black, kind of how you were saying, like with your religion. Um, and for me, that's always something that I'm like thinking about, not just how it feels to me to be black, but how everyone else feels, because it's not a monolith. And I'm sure you can say the same thing about being Muslim. So it's like, how do you represent this without eliminating someone, but also to make sure you're saying what you want to say about how you feel being in that. So I think those are the more labor intensive. I can't say specifically which one because there's a lot of them, but those are the ones for me.
That's good though. I feel like, do you know Jessie Reyes?
Yes. Hmm.
I'm actually wearing her merch right now that says "Before Love Came and Killed Us." But she
Wait,
said
how
this
come that
quote.
one? Oh, because you're wearing it. I was like, how come that one I can see regular and then I can't see your mask
Oh
flip?
no,
But it's because your
because
mask
this
is on
one,
your face.
no, because this one is like intentionally backwards. Like if you look at
Oh,
it in person, it's backwards.
oh, okay. So I thought I was crazy just now.
No. But she said this quote that I really like, where it's like, I like to make, I sing about the shit that I don't like to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm the same way with my art. Like, and I feel like a lot of other artists too, they're like, explain this piece. And it's like, I don't want to. Like, I did it, so I
Yeah,
don't have to
yeah,
explain it. So I feel like that
exactly.
kind of connects with like your stuff too.
Yeah, and a few of my friends have commented on it, like to me personally, but there's a sexuality that I never really show or like exhibit in myself that's in my work. There is like this like nurturing feeling that happens in some of my pieces. And then, so I'm Christian, but my dad has always like been the kind of person when I'm like, oh, I'm having artist block. What do I make? What should I do? And he'll just be like, oh, why don't you draw a car? Why don't you draw this dog? Why don't you draw? And sometimes he'll pose like something related to our religion, and I go, absolutely not, because that's something I don't even know how to talk about it with my friends, or like even with him, and he's a preacher, let
Hmm.
alone put that into my artwork yet. So maybe someday in the future, but that might be whatever that piece is going to be super intense and emotional for me. So
Right.
I totally feel you.
But I mean, when you do it, like it's gonna be two outcomes. Either you hate it and you never try it again, or you love it so much that you don't even want to share it, or maybe you love it so much that you're like, wow, like everyone needs to see this.
Yep.
But yeah, I feel like sometimes pieces are more like before you even start it, you just know, like your energy is like down here thinking about it because you're just like, I don't want to talk to myself right now.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, but I definitely get it. And also, like, when it comes to religion, like, things get much more judgmental. Like, sometimes if I make a piece that's about me struggling with my faith, like, I get really nervous about posting it because then people are going to think, like, oh, you're next to take off your hijab. Oh, you don't want to be Muslim anymore. And it's like,
It's
you
not that
know,
at all. You're just being a
exactly. I'm just being human, like, And I think for Muslim women, it's hard to kind of show vulnerability because people see it as weakness. So that's something that I try to show through my art too. It's like, you're not the only one. And it's like, we're all out here, especially like you get judged so much, just like every little thing that you do. And it's like hard to like
Mm.
be like confident and like secure and be like, this is a decision I'm making and I'm sticking by it. Cause like so much guilt comes with like just like being yourself. So it's like weird.
I feel like that can also be said of just being a woman
Yeah.
in
Or
today's
like being
space.
being any minority, period.
Yeah. And then to mix them all up into one person, which is you, is like, how do you, how do you have like that's? I think that's why I love your work, because it has this like playful way about it with the colors, and also like your line work is not like how mine is like super intentional. Like I'm following this line. Yours is kind of almost like whimsical
Yeah.
with
It's
its
fucked up.
intensity.
You could say fucked up. No, I'm just kidding. It's
Wait, what is it?
handmade. I like to say so it gave me a notification. But I like to say because I do it with my hand, and I'm not like let me redo it. And I also do it on Photoshop where it gets squiggly when you do it, like because I use my trackpad. Um,
Oh, okay.
it gets squiggly, but I like it. If I wanted it straight, I could use Illustrator because it smooths out your line. But I don't know. Yeah,
No,
like
I love
it's
it.
very intentional.
I love it. I don't know what I don't know. I saw it and I was like, okay, first of all, I didn't know she made art. This is amazing. And then I was just like, but this is just I don't know. It just seemed like it progressively got better and better. Or like
Mm,
I enjoyed the line work more, even like the subject matter more. The more I seen it. So I think it's really cool. And that's not to say that digital art is all the same, but it's just like I hadn't seen that style at all. And all the digital art that's going on, everybody's getting Procreate now and trying it out for the first time or like realizing what their style is. And I've never seen that style.
well, thank you. Is definitely something that I'm like. It's simple but intricate at the same time. Like anyone could do my style, but at the same time, that's the way. Like when I started like doing art, I would always see other artists like, and I'd be like, "Yo, that's so good! Like, what the hell? Like, I can't do that." And I started looking at more like intricate things or people who do realism, and I was like, I want to learn that. But at the same time, it's like you could learn technique, but you can't learn feeling, you know? And that's something that you learn in your like artistry. As you grow, you're just like, you learn how to interpret your feelings into something physical.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense. Sometimes I just talk and I'm like, did I make sense?
I understood. I got you.
Yeah, I feel like the but I appreciate everything that you said. For me it was like I went from just drawing myself to drawing what I'm going through, and a lot of people connect with it, and then you just become more confident, and then you just learn what things feel more important to you. Like I can't wait to see like what kind of stuff I make in a year from now, or like what kind of stuff you make a year from now, because like I'm like, damn, like that's really good. Where can you go after that? Like you're already the best. Like you get me?
Yeah, it definitely changes and you surprise yourself. I think honestly I've surprised myself most when I get commissions that challenge me. Because
Mm,
when you enjoy something, you're like, I'm gonna keep doing this because I enjoy it. And you don't necessarily challenge yourself anymore, or you get like, I don't want to say comfortable, but you get relaxed in the fact that you like, I know how to use this material. I'm gonna keep doing that. Maybe I'll change the scale or like the subject matter, but I'm gonna keep doing the same exact thing, which isn't a bad thing because it helps you become like the best at that, whatever that is. But
yeah, I totally get it.
it can stop you from feeling that challenge that you need to just like keep pushing yourself and getting better and better as an artist or just as a person in general.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I feel like currently something I'm doing is exploring different color palettes. Like before, I would use the same four colors, and I'm like, and then it's weird. I feel like my mind starts to tell me like when it's time to change things. Like when I
Hmm.
get bored of my art or when I get like frustrated with it, I get art blocks. And like you said, like I used to do the whole like, let me just draw something random and then that'll inspire new stuff. And I'm like, and now I'm like, my brain has finally shut up. Like I can relax for like a couple of weeks
Right.
until inspiration strikes again. And then also I let my art blocks tell me like something needs to change for me to get more into it. So I started changing my color palettes, and I felt like that has inspired me to create different, like go in different directions and create like stuff that means me, things that are meaningful to me, but me now, not me 2 weeks ago, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like I've had this conversation with some of my art friends too, and I usually always ask them like, how do you get through artist block? Because everybody goes through it differently, and like sometimes that means different things for people. But you said the same thing that I always say, which is like, my artist block is usually telling me like, you need to take a break, maybe you need to switch something up, maybe you need to try something different. It's never like you don't have ideas. It's always like there needs to be a switch happening for you to create more.
Yes, exactly. Like I see it as more of like literally what you said, a switch. It's like if I'm not listening to myself, it's gonna be like, all right, so you're not creating nothing now.
Right. Exactly.
Literally, I see it's like a conversation with yourself, and like I said, sometimes you just don't want to talk to yourself.
It's the same as talking to other people. Sometimes you just need a break. You just want to like be alone in your own thoughts
Literally,
and not have to do it. It's the same
yeah,
exact thing, but with yourself.
literally. And I feel like artists are notorious for like being loners, and like I get it, I know why.
So, how has the quarantine affected you in your artwork, or you as a creative in general?
Honestly, I think it's helped it a lot. Like, I know during quarantine, like a lot of people were struggling and they're like, I want to go outside so bad and I want to do things with all my friends. And I was like the complete opposite. I was like LLC Twitter. I was like, it's time to get productive. It's time to like, I'm like, we all have the same 24 hours. And then I went crazy for a little bit because I was like, I need a break too. And I'm at this point now where it's like, I appreciate when I'm inspired and when I want to create, but I'm also very appreciative at the time where I do have art blocks and where I'm trying to my mind is trying to tell me something. I'm like much more receptive to like listening to it, if that makes
Mm,
sense. I feel like quarantine has made me like I learned how to work with myself.
okay, yeah, yeah. That I like that. You learn how to work with yourself.
Yeah, because like before I was so busy and I was like I could never like make the things I wanted to make, and then when I had the time to make them, I'm like, yeah, this doesn't feel right to me. I don't want to make this. I'm just making this because I thought that's what I needed to do in my next step of being an artist, you know.
Mm,
So
okay.
I think I just like learned myself and my style. How about you?
Patience, I think, was my biggest thing. And I feel like I'm a very patient person, but I think with my art, similar to you, I was on the LLC Twitter basically, but only to myself. I wasn't doing it to anybody. If you ask any of my friends, I was telling them this is your time to relax, becoming like the self-care guru essentially.
Right.
Um, but for myself, I was like, you need to do more. You need to get this done. You need to make all the pieces you can make because you don't usually have this time. You need to don't worry about sleeping. Just do your work and just like make this. And it was just like constantly adding this extra pressure to myself, which wasn't necessary because the world was already doing that. Um,
Put that
and
on a shirt.
eventually, right. And eventually I was just like, okay, maybe this pressure I'm putting on myself needs to become my kind of self care, which we kind of touched on before, which is like it doesn't have to always be, but since I don't do it all the time, I was like, well, why not right now? So I did that, and that's why the show was created. But in doing that, I learned I actually enjoy teaching, which I already do for my job, but I realize it more now. It's like I actually enjoy teaching. I love the
Mm,
studio aspects of having this one on one or the connection with another artist, even if they're not doing the same thing I do helps me or like
right.
keeps me motivated in doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like I didn't make as many pieces as I originally had planned or set out to do, but I did feel more accomplished in my work that I created.
I love that. That's yeah. I feel like sometimes people think that they need to do so much to feel good, but it's like quality over quantity.
I picked up acrylic paints. I haven't done that in years, and I was so happy to just try that again.
Oh, nice. Wait, so what kind of markers are you using now? Just like regular?
I'm using Prismacolor markers. Can you see it?
Yeah, because
And
it
I saw
looks really good. They blend really well.
I think they're similar to the Copic markers where they're like alcohol and the ink inside.
Mm.
But I actually prefer these to Copic markers personally. The smell doesn't get to me as much as the Copic markers do, which I don't know why I smell them and everybody else is like they have no scent, but that's just how they affect me. Um,
You have the lush nose, is why.
right. I had my dad actually bought me my first set of them in high school, and I didn't know what to do with them. I just used them as like regular like Sharpie markers essentially
Hmm.
for the longest time. And eventually I was like, let me just try these out. And I did like one, I don't even know what the piece was, but I did a piece with them and I had fun. And so then I just was like, okay, let me see if I can get some more colors. So I have so many markers now. I don't even know how to like store them. But, but these are like my favorite material now because I can take them wherever I want to go. And Like I'm
Mm,
using like, 4 colors so far, and I can just make a whole piece out of them. They last a pretty long time.
nice. I something that I thought I was gonna do during quarantine was like doing traditional art. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna paint my shoes. And then like I went. It's weird because like I'm very used to using my fingers. It's like when you put a pen in my hand, I'm like I don't know what to do. And it's something you don't realize is like when you do digital stuff, it's so easy to like Command Z, it's gone. But like with traditional
Yeah.
art, you can't mess up.
If you
So
miss, it's almost like you have to do it all over again, unless you just want to go over it or
exact
change it to be something else.
exactly. And it's weird, like, cause like layers make so much sense online, and then when you're like here, you're like, damn, I can't separate the skin from the hair.
Hmm.
I can't try the sunflower this way, and then if I don't like it, I could just erase it, and then that stressed me out. So then I couldn't do traditional art anymore.
I was gonna ask you, like, have you ever tried traditional art, or like, what's your feelings toward it?
Yeah, I hate it to be honest. I feel like a failure when I do it. I'm like one of those people where I'm like, if I'm not good at it the first try, I'm done with it.
Oh, really?
I'm a Leo. I think that's where it comes from. But
My sister's a Leo. She's similar, but I won't say she's like that necessarily.
yeah, I
She'll
mean,
she'll take a very long break from it, and then she'll go back to it.
yeah, like I mean, I didn't do that with art in the first place. I'm like, this is terrible, but I'm gonna continue at it till I like it. And the same thing with video. But when it came to traditional art, I was like, this is a different type of hate that I have for it. I'm like, I genuinely don't like this.
That's hilarious. Okay, so I wanted to ask you that because I've seen it multiple times this week actually. Where people, it was digital artists that were saying that it's so funny to me how I think they were saying traditional artists feel like they're not in the same like career. Essentially, it's like they feel like one is greater than or less than the other. And I remember like in high school when like I don't want to say it's when it first got popping, but it became more popular in my friend group. For people to
Hmm.
make digital art, and it became like this like tug of war thing that was happening. It was like, no, that's not real art. Your stuff is easy to make. And then the traditional artists were like saying the opposite, like, oh, I can make this many much more than yours and more details. And then the people would come out with like these hyper realistic paintings that they did in Photoshop, and they were like, now what are you gonna say? So it just became this
Right.
conversation or this argument, I should say, that would happen constantly. But I was seeing it more recently, and I was like, I wonder how my digital art friends feel about this.
I have such a high respect for people with traditional art. Like I'm watching you do this, and I'm like, she hasn't messed up once. What the hell? Like you like I feel like people who do traditional art are so talented. Like I don't know, something like your hand speaks to your brain so like eloquently, and I have like such a high respect, and I'm just like I'm almost a hater where I'm like, damn, I can't do that, so now I don't like you.
I feel the same way about digital art. I dabble in it, but I wouldn't call myself a digital artist. Like if anyone hits me up to make logos, I'm like, I got somebody who can make it for you. Like, I know some people, but I'm not the person. Like I can do it, but I won't be proud of it.
Yeah. But I mean, I would never compare the two, but I'm always like, yo, like people who do traditional art are like artists, like they don't mind being broke, like, I feel like because digital art is so like expensive because like you have your laptop and you have your tablet and you have this, so it's like this pressure, like I gotta make money off of this, like I spent all this money. And traditional art is
Mhm.
expensive too, but it's like I don't know. I feel like that's like, I'm gonna go to Paris and I'm gonna live off my art for a year. Like, type. I feel like they're more like they watch French films, like,
Hilarious.
but just let
They
you
watch French
know,
films.
it's funny, I watch French films. I'm so fake. But my
I was
phone's
gonna
on
say
two.
that's the exact opposite of me. I don't do any of those things, but
Oh, really? My phone's on 2%, by the way, so if it dies, so, but
oh, we can end it here. I don't want your phone to die. I'm sorry.
no, it's cool. But I will leave with this. I do watch a lot of like indie movies, and I like to think that I'm not that like artist. where it's like, oh, like, like I watch these obscure films and I intake all this obscure art. And I always make fun of people like that, but it's like I am that person.
You are that person.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Okay, well, I'm gonna try to find some French films to watch or something because I'm literally at just I'm not even. I'll tell you about my views on going to France one day. Um,
Oh yeah, the hijab is banned in a lot of places there. So like I would never vacation there unless I'm trying to get kicked out or arrested or
yeah, I'm not interested. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, I feel that. But this was really fun. I'm glad that we did this.
Yeah, let's do it again. Next time you'll be making something with me.
Yes.
Um, and everybody follow Shayma. We didn't get to talk about the fundraiser that's happening, but
Oh
um,
yeah. You just go
if
on
you
my
can run that
story.
real quick, or just go to her story
Yeah.
and check it out. All the good things. Give her a follow. You won't regret it.
Thank you so much for this. We should definitely do this is actually like really fun, so we should definitely do another one like this soon.
All right. You guys look out for more pop-up episodes. Shayma's phone's dying, so ignore the fact that she is like loading right now. But check out more of this later. I'm gonna end live here. I will post my drawing